So now let's go on to our next session, which has some dynamic young leaders once again to talk about unlocking PropTech value from evolution to necessity. And in conversation with these young leaders will be Yash Gupta, managing partner, YGR. Yash Gupta is an accomplished business person with over 30 years of experience and is recognized for developing some of the best office buildings in India. He is currently focused on investing, acquiring, redeveloping, and managing commercial real estate assets. He has also partnered with Akshay Sethi of Stellar Group to co-found Soy, an office platform that future-proofs mid-market assets, helping tenants win the war for talent. His most recent initiative is teaching course in real estate at Ashoka University in India. And previously, Yash Gupta was the senior managing director and country head of Heinz India. So thank you, Yash, for being here with us today. Let me now invite our expert speakers in an alphabetical order. Binitha Dalal, founder and managing partner, Mount K Capital and head fundraising, Rustomjee, is joining us for this session. Ms. Binitha Dalal at Mount Capital oversees the fundraising and the development of the projects for the investee companies, and having over 14 years of experience working in the real estate finance and development fund management industry. She is also the head of fundraising at Rustomjee Group. Binitha is also the joint secretary at CREDAI and convener for banking at CREDAI National and CREDAI MCHI. Our other speaker in this session is Sudarshan Lodha, co-founder and CEO Strata. Sudarshan Lodha leads the team at Strata, an investment platform offering premium commercial real estate, enabling investments accessible to everyone. He's an experienced legal counsel in the real estate industry, having expertise in advising, drafting, negotiating, and vetting transaction documents pertaining to real estate acquisitions, investments, financing, and funding large-scale real estate projects in India. So this is our fireside chat panel. Mr. Gupta, over to you now.
Thank you, Sapna. As always, very dynamic and extremely well organized sessions that you do. I don't know if I can see everyone. Can people see me? Hi, guys. I hope you both took note of the fact that the young people in the room are Sudarshan and Binitha and not me. So the energy is really going to come from the other two. I have to apologize. We did not have a mock-up session like Zia did, which was animated. I completely missed the fact that I was moderating the session. I thought it was a panelist. So my apologies to my two panelists for going on the flow with me. But I'm really, really glad that we have some really smart people with me who will make the job easier and more fun. So the session today that we're really talking about is PropTech. Is it really a necessity or not? Has it become mainstream or not? And I think what I'm happy to see here on our panel, and the audience will appreciate, is we have two very distinct points of view. We have an investor in PropTech in Binitha, so someone who actually gets people's capital and her own and allocates that capital behind PropTech ventures. So someone who actually is telling people that the PropTech is something worth investing. And then we have Sudarshan, a practitioner of PropTech, someone who's taking money from people like Binitha and other people and saying, you know what, this is really the next big thing. And if you invest with us, this is an opportunity for us to make a significant difference in the industry, as well as reap some profits and benefits along the way. So guys, I mean, we have 30 minutes here, and it's great that we have two divergent points of view, one from an investor and a capital allocator's point of view, and someone who's actually using the capital. And I want to break the session really into 5 different questions, and we'll go by those questions one by one, allocating somewhere around 4 to 5 minutes per question. Get each of your point of view on those, and then we can open up to Q&A if you want to after that. So the question around the questions around, is PropTech really a necessity or not? Should it be the 5 things I'm thinking of? Why is PropTech a necessity? Number 2 is where do we really believe technology within the real estate ecosystem can make a big difference? And Sudarshan, you may have a biased view, and we appreciate that. 3rd is what? Who is doing that? Who are you? Is there a case example that you can think through where this is the necessity is actually becoming, the evolution is really becoming apparent, and how are they doing it well? And the last part is challenges. What are the challenges that we're seeing in this really becoming mainstream? So let's start a little bit about, before we get into these 4 or 5 questions, if I can start with Binitha and then Sudarshan, go to you, as to why did you guys get excited by Proptech, and when did you get excited by Proptech? And what exactly are you doing in Proptech today, just to set the context for the audience?
Thanks, Yash, for that very well, I would say, thought of and detailed overview and expanse that you've covered on Proptech. Both Sudarshan and me, genuinely, I think would have added more to everything that we're doing. And I'm going to kind of take some parts of it from that in my next session whenever I have to speak on Proptech. Well, that's very, very kind of you to cover it in depth, and a lot of all the work that you did while curating this session. Thank you for that. A bit of about what I'm doing in Proptech and what we're doing. So we are a real estate developer out of Bombay, been in business for about 25 years plus, recently listed, and that's the real estate part of it. We also built a fund management company called Mount K Capital, which is now a fund which invests in real estate projects in that. And while we were doing that and the fund management business enticed us, we also got into building a Proptech fund. So we're building a $100 million Proptech fund along with Venture Catalyst. And that's where we kind of started this entire Proptech journey. Why Proptech and how it's important? So if you see the way the entire tech boom has happened across the years, the only industry that doesn't really see this as yet, as much as most of the industries are seeing, is the real estate sector. It's still very nascent. It's still very, very, I would say, what we see in our cities, real estate across the country is a little different from that. What you and me see while working on Zoom and, kind of getting into a site and seeing the cleanliness, seeing, CRM managements and stuff. A very, very large part of the country is still getting into that phase where they are moving from Excel as an accounting way of working to probably a ERP and so on and so forth. So this industry has a huge potential of tech changing the way this industry works, right? From how you do construction, sales, post-sales management, as well as stuff like, Sudarshan has invented, where you do investment and management. So, and ownership of your assets. And with blockchain and Web3 coming in, we were very enthused to kind of be the people ensuring that you are part of the change that's going to transform you. The only thing that can disrupt you is an unknown change. And that is a reason why we kind of started working on a Proptech fund and working on Proptech as a sector, because that is the unknown change that's going to change the way you and me work. Who knew we could do a session online? We were used to doing conferences in person, traveling, spending the entire day with a group of people in the room. And now we're doing all this online thanks to the pandemic. So that's when we kind of started our journey on Proptech, and we started building this with Venture Catalyst, and our fund is called Spire Proptech Fund, which is already on road, and we're building it up from there.
Excellent. So 3 things, Sudarshan, that Binitha said. One is the fact that Proptech has been a little bit of a laggard as far as industries are concerned in the adoption of technology, or in the use of, or just even the appreciation of technology within the field of real estate. The second thing she's talking about is the fact that she says, before I get disrupted in my main core business, which is real estate, by technology, I should be leading that by being in front of it and being an investor in it as such. So I guess the 2 things that really she is saying. What is your take on why Proptech is important today?
Thanks, Yash and Binitha. Very important point, right? When people talk about PropTech in general, I think there's nothing beyond just a property classifieds website when someone has to think of PropTech, right? And there's so much more to PropTech as such. And the only ones which have scaled is a simple advertising website for listing your properties as such, right? All these companies, whoever you name it right now, the incumbents who have done big, are only and only focused on property discovery. So property discovery is one part of a very, very small subset of the entire PropTech journey, and the issues what customer faces Please understand from an India standpoint, real estate is still the largest asset class where one deploys. On an average, Indians have almost 70-80% of their portfolio only exposed to real estate, right? So it's an illiquid asset class. People don't have expertise in asset management at all. The tenant engagement structure has changed. You could have been that lala landlord earlier who could say, "Ye mere terms hai, you want to come, otherwise go to hell." Now you have to go run behind tenants and please them also, right?
Yeah.
Lots of times have changed around it. So I think from a Proptech standpoint, it's not just this, but I think a huge scope of asset management, and that's what we saw as a large opportunity. Discovery in terms of pricing, in terms of the affordability, and how could quality assets be offered to people, over a period of time. So that is one thing. But like what Binitha touched, there's a lot more on construction material, on construction management, on even procurements for that matter. Asset management, even your, let's say your power management in future, water, there are a couple of companies who are doing as such, but again, early because the eventual payers of this technology or the service eventually come back and ask this question as a developer who's going to take this eventually, or the owner of the asset is, okay, how much am I making as part of this thing, right? If I'm not making money, I'm not interested to do something like this. So this is where I think adoption, unfortunately, has been very low. In comparison, we've also run a battle for the last 3 years of telling people that, okay, we're going to charge you a management fee for doing what we do. People are like, why do I need, I get my CA who can do this. Why do I need you for this? It's just that over a period of time, people have realized the value which we can bring on board. But otherwise, we've also had the same challenges because at the end of the day, it all revolves around how much cost saving can you do is the technology which people are going to adopt, rather than how much time it can save for them, etc. So I think it's still a little journey for convenience, where people are ready to pay for convenience. I think Swiggy, Zomato have been able to do that where people are ready to pay that convenience fee, but it's taken them 7-10 years to reach where they are today. But I think PropTech is a little far away because it's just too large an asset class for people to adopt as such, right? So I think the second question which you asked about what Binitha was mentioning, I think it's a very forward-minded approach what Binitha is taking in general. Instead of being disrupted, let me be a part of the disruption. I think it's a fantastic, and very few people have this proactive mindset to even think to take that kind of call.
Or the vision, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Hats off to them.
Kudos to just the vision and the courage, more importantly, to think from that standpoint. So you're going completely against all the odds. I'm sure many of her developer friends are like, yeah, all this sounds good, etc. Paisa kitna bana rahe ho, end of the day, that's what they're going to ask her. But then, it's a matter of time where she'll be the laughing person on the other side of the table, where she'll be saving and being part of the disruption.
And that's a very good point you bring up, Sudarshan, which is that a lot of the technology in general and PropTech specifically, a lot of the benefit is such a long tail that people just don't recognize it in the short term. I heard a very nice fact, which still blows my mind. And they have this whole concept of half-life, which is how much something kind of keeps on moving in their half these things. But they say when a technology has 1% penetration in the market, so when a technology has 1% penetration in the market, an exponential technology that is, it has reached half its journey. That means the time it takes for a technology to go from 0% to 1% adoption is the same time it takes for the technology to go from 1% to 100% in a scalable technology. And I think people like us who think very linearly just cannot get our head around the log curve that there is in a situation like this. So you're right, there long tail. But Sudarshan, you picked up on something very interesting, and I'll go back to Binitha, which is the second part of what we're talking. Binitha, Sudarshan said that the people are not appreciating the fact how much cost, how much time a technology can save you. And ultimately, if we really break our industry down, I think it comes down to 3 factors that we use technology for. And the way I qualify that, either you're using PropTech or technology for reducing cost and time. That's number 1. Second, you could use it for increasing revenue, whether you're talking about classifieds, whether you're talking about reach, whether you're talking about any which way you can. But that second is increasing revenue. And the third is to really improve quality, whether it's the quality of your customer interaction, whether it's the quality of your product through construction management or contact, you take it whichever it is. But very, very big buckets, very, very high level. We're either talking about reducing cost, increasing revenue, or bettering quality. In the three, if you had to pick one of the three, Binitha, and it's an unfair question, where do you think technology and PropTech would be most significant?
I think all three.
You have to choose one, or just rank them. Rank them if you want to.
It's a little tough for lots of reasons. And I'll tell you also, just to add to what Sudarshan said, that, people are actually not conscious about the fact that PropTech is coming in, and what you mentioned. So this fund that we're building it with the industry. So about 5-10 of us got together from the real estate sector, and we said we want to build this together. And we got backing from an industry body to come and join it in terms of Credai, where the industry is supporting this change.
Yeah.
And being part of it. So that awareness is the first thing that honestly we all had to come together to create, because a lot of people today, if you see construction, and it's true for India even today, the way we construct our buildings in the cities vis-a-vis how we constructed in our tier 2, tier 3 cities, it's still very, very different. So that wave is now taking place, and you'll see a lot of people who are actually in the tier 2 cities using stuff like prefab, precast, preform, and starting to make buildings and homes over there. But coming back to your question, where you say you have to choose one of the three,
or rank them.
As much as one doesn't think or have the ability to see it through, but PropTech was definitely something that's going to save money.
Sudarshan, would you agree with Binitha, or would you have a different point of view?
No, completely with her. It's about seeing the long-term vision. Like you said, it's a long tail, unfortunately. So you're not going to get your immediate returns. But unfortunately, like I said, the adopters of PropTech are going to be developers in a large scale. And they unfortunately look at short-term value propositions rather than the long-term value propositions. That's
so would you say that you would, technology companies that are helping you increase your revenue will get funded first? Or do you think technology companies that are going to help you reduce cost are going to get funded first?
I think Binitha is a better person to answer this.
What do you think? Binitha has already answered. He said cost.
So it's a two-way thing. Obviously, first is cost, because that for a developer, it's income minus expense profit, right? He's not going to look at anything beyond that for a particular project per se. So definitely that is how he's going to look at it. But obviously, long-term wise, how much more revenue I can build. Like for instance, even when you do simple things of better air quality management or the kind of sustainable materials which you use, these are things which certain occupiers have started appreciating of late. My view still 95 out of 100 might still say yes, but eventually go for whatever the cheaper rent is at the end of the day. But I think it's a slow adoption which will happen over a period of time as such. But I think generally the occupiers in India look at more like a back office, right? It's not front office for them. So end of the day, cost is the only thing which is their 95% decision-making ability at the end of the day. So it might take some more time before the revenue generating might take over the cost saving thing, but I don't see that at least for a decade happening.
Very interesting, and it's interesting to note that that all three of us are real estate insiders, and maybe a lot of the audience today is as well. And it seems intuitive to us that the most important thing where technology can help us is cost and reducing costs. It's most tangible. It's something that can be easily measured. However, if you look at the investment data, at least over the last decade, the technologies that help you grow revenue have actually been the highest funded. Whether it's a WeWork, which kind of just allowing you to grow revenue by fractionalizing spaces, whether it's listing services, because of the fact that they can just increase the reach. And the reason why increasing revenue has been funded better than reducing cost is because of the fact that A, it's more exponential, and B, it does not often disrupt your core way of doing things. It is just augments them. So you can always sell through the channels that you're selling, but yeah, you can also have a website. Yes, you can also do a multi-level system. Yes, you can also list somewhere else, and that's okay. That's just an addition to what you do. Versus reducing cost often has to change the way you actually do the thing today. And that is a very big behavior to change often. And you have to change not just the technology, but your entire organization and your way of process of doing something. And that's why it's always been a little bit more friction. But you're absolutely right. What seems most intuitive is cost is where the focus should be from a technology point of view, especially in an industry like ours, where cost is a very large portion of your, or cost of goods sold is a very large portion of your total revenue stack. But that's the where portion. So we talked about why, which is why is PropTech important? Why are people thinking about it? How it can disrupt the industry? We've talked about where should the technology really be focused on, and what do the industry practitioners think about? The third part of what we wanted to talk about really is the what. I would like both of you to think through one example, either of your own company or of a company, Binitha, that you may have invested in from a technology company, where you can talk a little bit about the what of this thing. What did that company do? What is the process they followed? How do technology actually change a little bit of the industry or the way things were, such that it's become a necessity? The focus of today's panel is really about, is technology or PropTech becoming a necessity or not? So it would be great to pick on both of you to talk about an example there where you think that it's a great example of how PropTech has become a necessity. Binitha, if you can start with you again, sorry. And I'll start with Sudarshan next time.
No, that's okay. I think very well said. And, even in your last point, when you said that, it's about revenue and cost, and the last decade has been revenue. No one really spoke about cost. That conversation started only after lockdown, when everyone got into cost saving and they realized, oh, you know what, we don't really know what's going to come our way, and revenue is not a visibility. Let's just look at costs. I think that's where cost has come into focus for a lot of people, and people realize money has to make money. So that's where even the valuations were no more required, but profit was required for most startups. But your current question, when you talk about the fact that you're looking at what is it that changed, there's a tech that all of us use very simply, like, in your post handover, when you form your societies, you've got something like Apna Complex, which is owned by Anurag. When you go to your commercial spaces, it's something is called MyGate, where your entire entry exit process has been like simplified. That today is like a non-negotiable amenity that you have to give, to the extent that most people and developers have gone ahead and created their own apps to kind of bring a community and a society together. It's more also a focus today that I think for me was a post handover experience of a customer, where the ability of people to look at it as an amenity and as a handover in a post, because lots of developers look at it as you're done, you've given the OC, you handed the keys, people have moved in, and that's it. But consciously, we took the call of having all these things available in our societies upfront, which actually was something that for us became a necessity as an organization. So that's something that is for me, that seems like a huge tech changer in the post handover process, which has not been the focus area of a lot of people earlier.
What an amazing example, Binitha. I really appreciate that. That's actually true. For those of us in the audience who may not have understood what Binitha is talking about, but she's talking about the companies that she named as MyGate and Anurag company, Anna City, where they basically are a community management or a residential complex management software, and how it started as something to just reduce the friction of kind of coordinating between people and doing various tasks that are required, of having certain processes within a residential community, but which is where it started, but actually ended up having so much more intelligence, where they actually started building communities, started getting people together, starting to do events, dissemination of information, etc. So from a small use case of security, which was really the main reason why it started, which is why it's called MyGate, it became a much bigger thing and evolved organically into that. So again, from the evolution of PropTech into almost becoming a necessity, and as Binitha said, that today almost no complex can exist without it. Excellent example, Binitha. Thank you. So Sudarshan, what do you think? Could you think of as an example of PropTech where it has now become such a necessity that people just can't live without it anymore?
So I'll just add on to what Binitha mentioned, right? So MyGate has just evolved not just from this, but now they even have integrations, let's say, with an urban company or services what an urban company offers, right from plumbing to electrical work, which is also a large pain point for a lot of the tenants or a lot of the homeowners as part of the business, right? So this was also another problem. So MyGate has evolved, and hence it's become a very important thing in general for people like Binitha and developers to have this as a prerequisite, because Now the homeowners are also asking for something like that. So I
Absolutely
think
right.
apart from this, in commercial, one thing which is a larger problem which people are facing, at least let me talk from a CBD standpoint, because a good focus for us right now is CBD acquisitions. In a large way is parking management in general. I think it's become a very large issue, and companies like what Park Plus Security and bunch of other guys were trying to do, I think is a phenomenal thing. Especially let's look at Hyderabad as a market today, where I think there's a law that you can't charge parking fees in a large way, right? So most of the developers over there have left the parking management as an abandoned thing altogether. Like anyway, I'm not making any fee, let it be just like that, right? But again, opportunities for people to look at it from a different lens and try giving the best of services. Probably
Yeah.
look at companies who can use this as a branding activity, generate your fees or revenues out of that, and offer free parking at the end of the day, right? So, but rather than just abandoning altogether, because all these smaller parameters deteriorate your building quality over a period of time, from security, from quality, maintenance, everything standpoint. So that's a very important point. In generally, again, I think while it's not a necessity yet from an occupier, but will soon be, I think whole building maintenance management is a large thing which today is done in a more ad hoc manner. Done by just appointing one of the FMs to do it and they just give updates. But I think having more real-time update where you can take real-time involvement or updates from your occupier of the issues which are not resolved over a period of time. And there are companies who are doing that, it's still at nascent stage, but I believe over a period of time is where a lot of control will start having with the occupier as well as with the landlord, which is right now hanging on trust purely with the facilities manager, unfortunately, right? And it's a real experience which you don't want your occupiers to have over a period of time. So I believe this is going to be one of the large evolutions which we will foresee. While most of it is developer controlled, etc. But let's look at the mid-market segment where not every developer has that kind of bandwidth and expertise to do that. I think is a very large white space worth consuming and trying to capture market share over.
Again, excellent point, Sudarshan, and talking about how parking management systems and Park Plus. I actually was in touch with Amit Lakhotia yesterday, and how he left something like Paytm to say, no, this is a huge market, it's completely unaddressed. Let me find a way to organize it, and it's taken a lot of the friction out of the system to the point where you can't even think about having a parking system that works without an automated solution today. Is a great example of a necessity. But Sudarshan, talk a little bit about your own business as well, because I would say that even fractional ownership, given the fact that you talked a little bit about how Indians like to have a very large portion of their net worth in real estate, whether the number is 80% or somewhere within a very large number. So how do you think that what you are doing is going to become a necessity in the future from investing in real estate point of view?
Well, this is an ambitious point of is for us that everybody should have us as part of their portfolio over a period of time. That's at least the larger goal plan. We are there with about 3,000 Indians. We are still short of probably 145 crore Indians, whatever, as such, right? But broadly, from our standpoint, the kind of technology what we are adopting is more from an asset management, the whole investor experience, whole documentation management standpoint, which is usually a very broken system for people. Like when you want to buy a property, let's say even from an HNI, sometimes our due diligence takes 2 months just because they don't have all the documents in hand. While it's a clean property, we know title is there, but without the documents, they can't move on. Also, I feel there's a large opportunity for property or title insurance, which is not there in India in a large way. Large phenomena in the US. As insurance sector evolves in India, this might also be there. Again, there is some linkages with the government trying to digitize most of the, all the property records. With that, title insurance can probably be a go-to. But having said that, this is what we do. Apart from that, we give the investors an experience which they've never had through mobile application where they can invest, they can track, they can liquidate over a period of time. Eventually, I believe we're getting.
We lost him, I think.
Yeah, did we just lose him or did we lose everyone? Okay, we just
No,
lost Sudarshan. Thanks,
Sudarshan.
Binitha. Good.
You've lost him?
Maybe if you kill your video for a minute.
Yeah.
Sudarshan, I can see you back again. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we heard you say basically is that what you're doing is really helping people own real estate in a more professional manner, whether it's the way and get cheated, whether it means that they'll get cheated less because there's better due diligence, And what it is, there's better paperwork, there's better trail, there's better maybe even title insurance tomorrow on that, or whether it's better management of the property itself. And you talked about how in the beginning, how people used to say, listen, my CA does it for me. But obviously the CA doesn't have the competence and the sophistication that you would have in asset managing a property, whether it's with a tenant, whether it's getting a tenant out, whether it's just managing it on a day-to-day basis. And I think these are, again, great examples to show that people just are used to doing things in a certain way, and they think those things work till they find a great technology solution, and then suddenly they realize, shit, how did we work before this? This is so amazing in many ways. And I think that is really where Binitha has kind of seen the vision and is a little ahead of the curve by saying, listen, I'll put my money where my mouth is, because these things will become the de facto standards in the time to come for the industry, and it's a great way to do. So
I'll sorry to interrupt you, Yash. There's
Sure.
one thing which we do very proactively as a process which we started. What we realized is, let's say there are two realtors working or two brokers in the market who are trying to do. One has a tenant and the other one has a land, but they don't talk to each other because they feel the other one can take the other thing, right? So we are trying to also run a platform which is Strata Reach, where partners can come on board, register certain things, and we act more as an evangelist as part of the trade, where your interests are secured, because our job is we're neutral to both of you. We've done about 4 transactions ever since we started, where we created an asset or created a supply ground up where partners came on board and did the entire transaction, and we funded it eventually, right? So things like that will also create a lot of disruption in asset building also over a period of time, where the ecosystem is seeing assets. Like I know multiple of our tenants which we talk to, they're like, hey, we want a space in different parts of India as well. And go through the whole process of finding a local guy who will find me land, who'll find a developer, eventually find an investor, a bunch of things. Again, we become a catalyst at that standpoint where it's a stop solution for them, where different stakeholders can come together, work or use our platform to their best advantage. Obviously, today we're restricting only where we are putting our money into it, but I think over a period of time, this could also become a large platform as we move forward.
Excellent. No, sounds very exciting that you are finding spaces where there are where you can just smoothen the entire matchmaking process or fulfillment process using technology in a trust-based manner. But that brings us to the challenges that often we find in the adoption of technology and therefore the scaling of the companies. And in the same manner, Binitha, you might be finding that it might be difficult. I don't know if that's true, but sometimes it might be difficult to convince people to invest in Proptech companies or in a Proptech fund. So talk a little bit about some of the challenges you have both faced on 2 fronts. One, as an investor, where the companies have a great solution, but they're finding it difficult to scale up because the industry is used to doing things a certain way, number one. And number 2, what you have done, which is amazing, that you're saying, listen, we will get the industry kind of both organized and rallied behind this war cry. And let me therefore get the best experts in real estate to become the investors. And together we will invest in these companies. But I'm sure that too must be having some challenges along the way. And why are people hesitant to invest money in Proptech companies? So 2-pronged answer for you, Binitha, and if you can talk a little bit about how you guys with your fund are kind of solving those problems for the industry, please.
So that's a great question, and honestly, that's the need of the hour right now. If I was just looking at some data a couple of days, and the total investments in Proptech startups from 2021 to now has only been $2.4 billion.
Wow.
Which is very, very small. Okay. Not for any reason, but because this industry, if you see the kind of revenue it generates and the cost it does. So costs cover almost say about anywhere between 75 to 80% of the revenues that we are doing. So if only 2.4 billion has been invested in Proptech startups for an industry which is known to contribute almost 7 to 8% to India's GDP, the gap that you're finding there is really, really large. Why is it that people have not been able to invest into startups or have not put it? I think 2 reasons. A, the awareness is really, really low even today. If I tell you that the total amount of Proptech startups, including the housing.coms and Sonicons and unicorns in total, are not more than say about 90 to 100, that number is very small. When fintech as a revolution started and banks went digital, it took them couple of years until which the market was created, and then you could see Paytms and UPIs and so on and all come and forth. It was almost 7 and 8 years before Paytm really became Paytm, and you kind of knew what Paytm does. So I think we're there. It's not that far away where you'll really see people coming in and going all out in it. And I'm also seeing Proptech founders becoming a little more mature in their approach. They're not the ones who just got up today morning and have lived the Zomato and Swiggies of the world and lived those areas where they can go ahead and, come and talk about valuation and someone will give you money and then go on and so forth. They are now coming with tangible solutions which you can actually see put through in your day in life. It's becoming really easier to have a conversation from anyone in the sector on Proptech, because as we may all see, the second and third generation has already started to step into real estate. So they are very, very intrigued and enthused about tech as a concept. If you ask Sudarshan, his investors also, most of them would be second and third generation or people between 20 to 35, or, who are either working somewhere, have surplus money, don't want to put it in stock exchange, don't want to buy something and probably want to own a piece of a asset which is giving them yield. So that awareness has come in, and that change has started to come in, and that's where the conversation is easier. Where I still see difficulty is I still find some founders who are trying to teach an engineer to do engineering better. That is a bit of a challenge, where I think they need to understand that I will never know, probably I can't predict, or I cannot teach English in a college, because that's not my diction and that's not my forte. But I can build a building. So I know exactly what happens from start to end. You can probably come and see that process along with me, and tell me how to improve that process and how I can change it to make my building or my commercial building better. But you can't come and tell me that, you instead of going and putting a shore pile, probably all you need to do is put 3 things on the side, and your site will be more protected against any kind of mishaps or any kind of cave-ins of land. So that's where I'm still seeing a little bit of challenge in the convincing of a product that your startup founders are bringing on the table. But if I see the idea state startups which are there out there right now, and the way they are kind of coming in with new age technologies to make it convenient, not just for a consumer, but also for a developer to see the construction progress and delivery, I'm very, very, I would say, positive and enthused to see that through. And that's something also that we will be kind of taking up, where we kind of bring in an incubator as well for such people who can actually bounce off the ideas to the industry. Because better to handhold you from the start than to kind of come in at a later stage. So that's what we're trying to do also in our next phase.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I'm just conscious of the time because we have just, I think, 2 or 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
But just to summarize, I think there's something that Binitha said, which was very powerful, that if we think India is about a $3 trillion economy and 8% of the GDP is real estate, which makes about 240 billion, only 2.4 billion, Binitha, you said, has gone in how many years?
In how many 2021 years? To now.
So in 2 years, 1% of the revenue has gone into Proptech over 2 years. So that's 0.5%. That's all that's gone in. And if we really do believe, and if you were convinced after this panel that actually Proptech is a necessity, then I think you should all go and invest in Binitha's fund. Yeah. With that, Sapna, do we have time for?
Sudarshan as a part of it.
And have Sudarshan as a part to, after they've invested in Binitha's fund, then Sudarshan will take all the money that you make and be invested in properties for you. So, Sapna, does that wrap it up for us, or do we have time for Q&A?
Yeah, fantastic. I think, but Yash, you have seen, as our earlier speakers had mentioned in the panel, that we are just scratching the surface for Proptech, and you are the one who started when, the initial stages of Proptech, you started with that. How have you seen the scenario changing? We started with the discovery platforms, aggregators. then the consolidation. If we say these are the two phases, what is the next phase you are seeing?
So great question, Sapna, and this is the reason why. I mean, it depends on really what your business is and how do you focus on it. When our realization is, people have been scratching the surface of PropTech for a long time, and it's an industry that moves very slowly. It is a very brick and mortar industry by definition. So our view has been that we don't want to be the SoftBanks of the world who went and funded WeWorks. WeWork is a great solution. We think it's a fantastic product. It just didn't have the right capital stack, like people are realizing. So with any disruption, with any technology, new technology, there will be a learning curve. Some things will go right, some things will go wrong. People like me have a lot riding on or at least have enough other things to do with our main real estate business that we focus on. That we're saying, let PropTech go through one or two evolutions when it stabilizes, and once it stabilizes, that's when the big money will go in. So as in any, even in venture investing, you have seed, you have early stage, you have growth, and then you have buyouts. We are more the growth guys. So we will come in after Binitha and Sudarshan have proven out that their investee companies or Sudarshan's own company have got to a certain scale. That's when people like me would like to come in and give them a lot more money to kind of go and own the market. But the people who are actually going out and saying, I will invest in 5 different people, and Binitha will spend her own personal time telling the engineer to stop doing engineering beyond a point and to listen to the industry as well. That is something that Sudarshan and Binitha are much better at. And I think I'm really happy that they're doing it, because I think it improves the industry for all of us. But each of one plays a different part in that journey. Would you guys agree?
For sure.
Yeah, I think
That's where
you
we are.
rightly said, yeah, with every new thing, the learning curve has to be there. And, that is how any technology or anything.
And
would
mistakes
grow.
are very much a part of learning. People think mistakes are things gone wrong. Actually, I think mistakes are things gone right. That's how you become better at it. That's the way we see it. Yeah.
That's why most startups, the founders, after their first failure, the second and third become unicorns.
Yeah, right. Very well said.
That's
Well, thank you, Sapna, for giving us this opportunity. And Sudarshan,
that's a very positive note that we have
great
ended on.
panelists. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
You guys
Thank you
soon.
so much, Yash, for that wonderful conversation, and Binitha and Sudarshan joining for this talk on how to unveil PropTech and
my apologies for realizing I was the moderator just before the panel started.
But that was a fantastic job done. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone.